Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Civic Math. Today, we arrive at the final colony in our journey through this original 13 colonies. Over the past several weeks, we've traveled from North Carolina to Massachusetts using mathematics to understand the people, economies, distances, risks, and decisions that shaped the American Revolution. Now we come to Maryland. There is a special reason Maryland appears last in our series. Maryland was among the last colonies to authorize its delegates to support independence. In fact, only days before the Declaration of Independence, Maryland was still debating whether separation from Britain was the right choice. That makes Maryland the perfect colony to study before our July 4th finale, because Maryland reminds us of something very important. Independence wasn't inevitable, it was a decision, and sometimes the most important decisions are made at the very last moment. Today, we'll use mathematics to explore Maryland's population, geography, economy, and strategic importance in 1776. Let's take a look. As we did with Massachusetts, we are going to examine Maryland through sections. In section 1, okay, in terms of population, the colony had about 250,000 people. VA, 538,000. PA, 434,000. 378,000. Georgia, 33,000. So the ratio of Maryland population to colonial America was about 250,000 by 2.5 million. That's roughly about 10% of the population. So one out of every 10 Americans at that time lived in Maryland. Okay. In section 2, Maryland's location. It was sandwiched right between Pennsylvania and Virginia, geographically. So you went from Philadelphia to Annapolis, PA, Maryland, and to Williamsburg, VA. Maryland sat directly between some of the most important political centers in America. Ideas, newspapers, goods, and travelers frequently moved through Maryland. Philadelphia to Annapolis, roughly 120 miles. Annapolis to Williamsburg, roughly 170 miles. So a total of 290 miles. Maryland was more than a colony, it was a bridge. In section 3, let's examine the Chesapeake Bay. Today we think of highways and airports. In 1776, the Chesapeake Bay was Maryland's transportation system. Farmers could move product by water much more efficiently than by wagon. So you get from the farm, this was the supply chain or the supply route, right, to the dock, to the ship, and to the market. The Chesapeake Bay connected Maryland to the wider Atlantic world. Its waterways helped build the colony's economy and influence. What was produced in Maryland? In section 4, let's look at tobacco. Like neighboring Virginia, Maryland depended heavily on tobacco. Tobacco was one of the colony's most valuable exports. Imagine a farm producing 5,000 pounds of tobacco. Multiply by 100. That's about 500,000 pounds of tobacco. Okay. And Maryland had far more than 100 tobacco farms. The scale of production connected Maryland directly to British trade and British policies. When political tensions rose, economic consequences followed. In section 5, Annapolis and the decision of 1776. Annapolis was Maryland's capital. It is still Maryland's capital. It was here that political leaders debated one of the biggest questions in American history. Should Maryland support independence? Surprisingly, the answer was not immediately yes. So let's look at the timeline. May 21st, 1776, Maryland said no. It instructed its delegate not to support independence. June 28, 1776, Maryland said yes. Maryland authorized its delegate to support independence. So, how many days passed in between these two dates? Roughly 38 days. So, 38 days. In just 38 days, Maryland moved from opposing independence to supporting it. Think about that. A decision affecting hundreds of thousands of people changed in little more than a month. In section 6, why the 38 days mattered. Maryland authorized independence in June 28, 1776. Yes. Okay. July 2, 1776, Congress votes for independence. July 4th, 1776, independence is adopted. So only 6 days separated Maryland's decision from the adoption of the Declaration. That means Maryland's change of position came at one of the most critical moments in American history. Without support from colonies like Maryland, the Declaration would have been far more difficult to achieve unanimously. In section 7, why Maryland mattered. Maryland connected regions. It connected economies, and it connected people. And in the summer of 1776, Maryland helped connect the colonies to a common decision. Its leaders debated carefully, its citizens weighed the risks, and ultimately, Maryland joined the movement of independence. Not first, not loudly, but at exactly the moment when its support mattered the most. So, in conclusion, we learned that Maryland, of course, had about 250,000 people. That represented about 10% of colonial America. The Chesapeake Bay powered transportation and trade. Tobacco was a major economic engine. Maryland connected north and south. It changed decision in 38 days from no to yes for independence. So those are the key things that we remember Maryland for. Next time, we'll meet the Maryland leaders who helped make that historic decision and examine the risk they accepted when they chose independence. And after all, we'll bring together everything we've learned in our July 4th Civic Math finale. History tells us what happened. Math helps us understand why it mattered. We'll see you in part 2.